2 hours by train and 1 hour by subway. That's the time Julie needs for her daily commute to work. Living in the suburbs, Julie has to wake up at 4:30 a.m. to avoid being late. Within an hour, she must wake her 2 children, prepare breakfast for them, make her own lunch, and then take the children to the neighbor, asking her to look after them and handle their school drop-offs and pickups. After dropping off her children, Julie has to run immediately because the train to Paris won't wait for her. At the last second before the train doors close, Julie manages to board. She sits in her usual seat, watching the ever-changing scenery outside. But halfway through the journey, an announcement comes over the intercom. Due to a passenger's illness, the train has been halted. Julie is forced to squeeze onto an overcrowded bus and then transfer to the subway to reach downtown Paris. After getting off the subway, Julie hurries to her workplace while also answering a call from the bank about her overdue mortgage payment. Fortunately, she clocks in on time without being late. Julie works as the head chambermaid at a 5-star hotel. As soon as she arrives, her supervisor asks her to prepare a briefing for her. Her staff are waiting for her to assign tasks, and she needs to keep track of all the room details and guest information, such as which room has a leaking shower head that needs replacing, which door is broken and needs repair, which guest has dirted their room and requires cleaning, and if there are any customer birthdays to note. After all the rooms are cleaned, Julie is also responsible for the final inspection, paying attention to details down to straightening every piece of paper. After a morning of intense work, lunchtime finally arrives. Her manager introduces a new employee, Lydia, to her and instructs Julie to help her get familiar with the job. Julie's mood darkens. Training a new employee will significantly increase her workload and sometimes cause her additional trouble. Just minutes before guests are set to arrive, Lydia accidentally breaks a potted plant. Julie quickly arranges for people to clean the carpet and rushes to find another plant to replace it. Just 1 minute before the guests arrive, she manages to handle everything and narrowly avoids being reprimanded. After finally finishing her workday, her manager asks Julie to help write employee evaluation forms. After much persuasion, Julie manages to set the deadline for Thursday, buying herself some breathing room. Despite the high-pressure work and long commute leaving Julie physically and mentally exhausted, the hardest part for her is that she has no money left. Previously, Julie bought a house in the scenic suburbs to provide her children with a good living environment. Her salary, combined with her ex-husband's alimony, was just enough to cover living expenses. But in recent months, her ex-husband hasn't been paying the alimony, causing Julie to fall into financial difficulty. Now she is deeply in debt. No matter how many times she calls her ex-husband, he remains out of reach. What's worse is that, due to the strike, all the subways are out of service. Julie hurriedly looks for a bus to replace the subway to get home. By the time Julie returns home, it is already late at night. But that's not the end of her misfortune. The neighbor who takes care of Julie's children is also going to go on strike. Julie leaves early in the morning, and she has to wake up early to take care of her kids. The children at this age are naughty, and the neighbor is really feeling overwhelmed and can no longer take care of them. Julie can only plead with her to look after them for a few more days. She promises to find a solution to the problem by Sunday. The pressure of life is about to suffocate Julie, but she doesn't give up and plans to seek a new way out for herself and her children. She wants to find a job with a higher salary. Julie secretly submits her resume to a company she desires and soon receives an interview notification. Unfortunately, the interview time is not very convenient. It's scheduled for Tuesday afternoon. Julie doesn't take a day off directly but asks a colleague who is off on Tuesday to cover for her for half a day. She then takes the hotel shuttle to the interview location. This is a large retail company, and Julie is applying for the position of market researcher. Julie has a master's degree in economics and was a manager in the market research department 4 years ago. After her last company went bankrupt, she didn't find a new job and became a housewife for 4 years. Because she hasn't worked in her field for so long, most companies are unwilling to hire her, so she has to lower her expectations and apply for a more basic position as a market researcher. Fortunately, Julie is very outstanding and quickly receives a notification for a second interview, which is scheduled for Thursday afternoon. Julie wants to use the same strategy again and find someone to cover her shift. However, the 2 colleagues who were off on Thursday have one going on a trip, and the other colleague, Nina, just had a conflict with Julie that morning. Due to transportation issues, Julie's tardiness has become increasingly serious, even affecting others. Nina, who partners with Julie, had to clean the entire suite by herself because Julie was late that morning. She is already fed up with the transportation paralysis caused by the strike, and now Julie is late every day. She questions Julie about why she can't move closer to work. Julie replies that the environment in downtown Paris is not good, and she doesn't want her children to live in a cramped, undesirable place. This comment deeply offends Nina, who lives nearby. Therefore, when Julie asks her to cover for her, Nina flatly refuses. With no one to turn to and unwilling to give up her chance for the second interview, Julie decides to take a risk and skip work. However, there's something more pressing: how to get home. The buses are also out of service. At this moment, Julie is on the verge of a breakdown. The neighbor calls to urge her to pick up the kids quickly. She asks the station security if there are really no buses running.
Vous pouvez tenter votre chance autour de la gare, il y a peut-être du covoiturage.
Non, j'ai pas envie de tenter ma chance, je joue pas au putain de loto là. J'habite loin, j'essaie de rentrer, il y a mes enfants qui m'attendent, merde! Moi j'en ai ras le cul là, ras le cul!
The accumulated pressure from recent days suddenly explodes, but after venting, Julie still can't find a way home. After some negotiation, she convinces the neighbor to reluctantly take care of the kids for one more night, while she has no choice but to find a small hotel near the station to spend the night. The dusty wall lamp and unwashed bedding are far from ideal, but Julie has no other options. She still has to stay up late to fill out employee evaluation forms and prepare for her second interview the next day. Thursday is one of the rare days when Julie isn't late. She starts preparing early in the morning for her plan to slip out in the afternoon. She first arranges for Lydia, a newcomer who shadows her, to clock in for her after work. In return, Julie promises to approve Lydia's application for a permanent position. Next, she asks another group of colleagues to mentor Lydia in the afternoon, providing cover for her. Julie also plans to use her lunch break to clean the suite she was originally responsible for. At noon, Julie completes her work in a whirlwind. She then immediately slips out of the hotel and goes to a nearby mall. There, she buys a professional outfit that makes her look very polished and elite. She then takes a car, which she has hired at 3 times the usual price, to the interview location. However, just as Julie arrives at the interview site, the hotel manager calls, asking her to come and see her first thing the next morning. Julie knows that if she doesn't land this interview, she might lose her current job and face serious consequences. She keeps motivating herself, suppressing her anxious and frantic feelings, and puts on a cheerful smile. Yet, the interview is not easy. The manager asks several questions based on her resume. Why does she choose their company? Given the long distance she lives from work, will she be able to work overtime? As a former housewife returning to the workplace, will she be able to adapt? Will she feel undervalued since the position she is applying for is lower than her previous role? Julie has practiced answering these questions at home many times and has responded to them flawlessly. However, the manager found the website of Julie's former company based on the information in her resume and discovered that this company had been attacking large retail companies, causing them a lot of trouble. When she asks Julie if there is a competitive relationship between her former company and theirs, Julie says there isn't.
Bon, écoutez, votre connaissance du secteur nous intéresse. Par contre, et c'est là où je veux en venir, si vous voulez travailler avec nous, il va falloir commencer à jouer franc jeu avec moi. Vous comprenez?
Ah bien sûr, bien sûr.
After the interview, Julie's face is filled with worry. She seems to foresee her situation after today, but she doesn't even have time to break down. She still needs to rent a car to bring home the trampoline she bought in installments. It's a birthday gift her son has always wanted and will be a perfect surprise for his weekend birthday party.